We are going to do a quick breakdown of the throat and the heart chakra to summarize our learnings from class and to have something that we can come back to for our own replay, our own remembering. And so, as we were working through the chakras, the heart and the throat are probably the easiest to understand. They're probably the most straightforward in terms of what we need to know about them. There are different things about the heart and the throat that we could dive into, but for our own benefit, we can keep it very simple with the heart chakra and the throat chakra in terms of the heart is to love, give and receive, and the throat is to express and give and receive. So the heart is giving and receiving love, and the throat is giving and receiving communication. And so in the giving is obviously our speech, our expression, and in the receiving is our listening. And when we have a blocked throat chakra, for example, our words don't come out of our mouth. And instead of not like when they don't come out in an expression, whether we're speaking our minds, our hearts, our opinions, our wants, our desires, our needs, they get suppressed, they get held inside. And so we don't actually get to communicate about ourselves. Our inner world doesn't get to come out into our outer world. It just actually stays suppressed inside and it ends up like blocking areas of our lives. So whether it's, um, blocking aspects of our identity, who we are, how we see ourselves, how we get to experience ourselves as someone who, asserts themselves or is authentic or those types of things. So when our inner world can come out, our outer world can expand and shift in accordance to it. When our inner world does not come out, our outer world stays small in accordance to how we are, what we are keeping inside. And so it's important for us to communicate so that we can expand our inner world and expand our outer world. And then, in this sense, if we are restricting our communication, our expression, then our words actually turn into thoughts. Then we're like overthinking. And when we are overthinking, it's difficult to listen because we're also listening to our own thoughts. And we're also then filtering what is coming in from somebody else through our own thoughts and beliefs. This is how we get a lot of misunderstandings happening where it's like, I might be telling somebody, oh, you're so pretty, let's say. And if their own belief system about themselves is that they are not, then you'll say you're pretty. They might hear, oh, this person's just being nice, or, they don't really mean that, or something along those lines. So our suppression turns into thoughts in our mind. Those thoughts in our mind are usually associated with whatever reason we are suppressing. So our identity, our beliefs, our unprocessed traumas, emotions, etc. And then these form sort of the filter that information comes in through. I hear someone says you're great. I hear, they don't really mean that type of thing because it doesn't actually line up with the beliefs that are in my mind. So a blocked throat chakra impacts expression, but it also impacts reception as well, which is why it's really important to start to move the energy in the throat, to start to move the energy in your expression so that you can clear your mind, be more present in your life, and allow your external world to expand more. So there's that. Another reason why our throat is blocked because our heart is blocked. And so our words are connected to our hearts. And so when we are speaking our truth, there is going to be emotion wrapped around it. So let's say we're wanting to tell someone how much we care about them or how much they've hurt us or anything like that. When we go to speak, there is going to be emotion wrapped around our words. And if we are not wanting to feel those feelings, we will stop talking so that we don't cry or, become passionate or whatever. And then we will swallow them back down. And this continues to create a blockage in the expression of ourselves, causing our hearts to stay closed, ourselves to sort of retreat back into our inner world and not bring our inner world outside of ourselves. It's really important to express, communicate from your truth so that we can clear both the heart and the throat, but also the mind. The mind will become more quiet when you can be present in your life because you're not suppressing so much. It feels safe to be in your outer world, and you don't always have to be in your inner world. Let me just check in my notes here. So the reason we talked about this before in our earlier chakras, the root, the sacral, and the solar plexus, the way that chakras become blocked or closed or restricted is based on our interactions. So the throat and the heart are extremely relational. All the chakras are relational because they are developing early on in our lives and they're developing in relationship. So the way that you are responded to is going to create openness or closure in your chakras, in your expression, because it's like my inner self comes out, whatever it's met with either lets it continue to come out or it tells me to push it back in. If I get a negative reinforcement, then I push that back in. If I get a positive reinforcement, then I continue to bring that out. And so our hearts and our throats become closed because in some relational way, we had a negative reinforcement. So oftentimes when we are in our earliest relationships, our first love, children just need to be loved. And so your earliest relationship around love is usually with your family members, with your parents, with your caregivers. And if that love is also associated with hurt, pain, loss, neglect, abuse, trauma, anything like that, and then love now becomes associated with pain and our hearts want to open to receive love, but there's also an apprehension of being hurt in that exchange. And so our relational ability becomes a little bit distorted or a lot distorted because we learn how to relate to people based on how they're relating to us. So we're like, okay, love also means hurt and it also means abuse and it also means neglect, and that's how we start to learn how to relate. And so the heart will open because it wants to receive love, and then it'll be met by pain. And so it will close up and back up. And then we'll begin to protect our hearts by protecting ourselves from people. But at the same time, it's our natural impulses continue to naturally impulse. And so our desire for love continues to be a desire for love. So we continue to want it at the same time protect ourselves from it. So it becomes this relational back and forth. I want it, but I'm scared. I want it, but I'm hurt. I want it, but and then that's what ends up being the reflection of our relationships. Are we're putting ourselves out there and then we're retreating, or we're, putting ourselves out there and maybe treating people badly, or, whatever was taught to us in relationships, whatever our experience of relationships, whatever feels safe and protective to ourselves is how we'll engage. If we were neglected, we might be in relationships where we end up neglecting or leaving or kind of not showing up fully for the person. If we were rejected, we might find ourselves rejecting people or not getting too close because of fear of being rejected. We learn how to relate based on our early relationships. And then the pain that is associated with love becomes sort of trapped in the heart space. And so when we go to open the heart, that pain is present, but it's present because it wants to be healed, but we feel it. And when we feel it, if we don't heal it and move through it, then we will retreat back in whatever way that looks like for you specifically. Rejection, protection, um, neglect, avoidance, anxiousness, any of those experiences, we will act out. So you can kind of notice relationally, like, how am I in relationships? Do I protect myself? Am I anxious? Do I avoid? Because there's something in your heart chakra that's causing you to interact in that way. So that's how basically all of our chakras are open or closed based on our relationships and the positive or negative reinforcement that happened along the way. Our throats are the same thing. As we are met, as our expression is met with either love or receptivity or care or acceptance or listening or interest, it will continue to flow. But if it's met with shame or judgment, or where, kids are to be seen and not heard type of thing, or invalidation, or embarrassment, or even if we're told or implied that, certain things are to be kept a secret in the home, you're not supposed to talk about certain things, that is a restriction in our throat chakra. We're telling ourselves our authentic expression is not acceptable. And so we hold it in. And then what happens is that those words turn into thoughts, and then they get blocked in our mind, causing us to overthink um, and not feel sort of present as we would need to feel in our lives. And so the way to heal these chakras, number one, the first and foremost, if we talk about self-love and self-expression, are the two primary ways of healing these chakras, because as children we were codependent, and so our naturally our all of our needs were met by the other. It's just the position that you're put in as a child. You don't have autonomy, you don't have independence. You are relying on your needs to be met through the person who is caring for you. And if that person was unable to meet all of your needs in the way that you needed them to be met, you still are living with parts of you that have unmet needs for love, for care, for attention, for validation, for um, whatever the thing, safety, support, etc. And so the way to heal these chakras is to meet your own needs, to recognize, okay, now I am somebody who has autonomy and independence. So I get to like reparent myself, basically. I get to go and give myself what I needed, the validation, the love, the support, the whatever. And the way to do this is like the ultimate form of self-love. The way to do this is through parts work. So when we do parts work, we get to be with those parts of ourselves. We get to give them what they needed, attention, love, support, hear from them what they need from us so we can continue to do that. And this is how we really show ourselves that we love ourselves. We're like, you are important and I'm going to meet your needs. And that is for me the ultimate act of self-love, is not, baths or shopping or whatever, but really is to go to the parts of you that have unmet needs and meet their needs with love, with compassion, with curiosity, with care. And it begins to heal and open up and dissolve. And now the things that were causing us to suppress have sort of melted away through the met needs or the love. And then we get to express. And I think that's really important here in this sort of middle ground of healing, is that as we're moving from suppression to expression, the most important part is the experience of yourself you're having. So you want to, because our because we're in this position because of the relational feedback in the first place, we don't want to immediately go to that again. We actually want to first start with how I'm feeling in myself. So my experience of myself is primary, and then someone else's experience of me is secondary. And so we want to build up this, where it's like, I feel good about me before I'm concerned about how you feel about me type of thing. Because that codependence, that natural state of codependence is what got us here in the first place. So now as we're moving back into like an interdependence and independence, we want to first feel good about who we are before we're now relying on external feedback, because not everybody's going to be able to give you the feedback that you are going to need or want in order to grow. You are going to give that to yourself first and foremost. And then when people, for me, I'm someone who is very outspoken, and a lot of people are uncomfortable with that. And if I continue to let that external feedback be something that I navigated with, and I was like, okay, people don't like this, I would continue to suppress. And so I have to check in with, how do I feel about myself in this moment? And if I'm good with me, then I can keep going. And then that actually moves you into spaces where there's people who are going to be good with you. Because if you're like, oh no, people don't like this, I have to put this away, now you're actually making yourself smaller to fit into somewhere that is too small for you. But when you're like, okay, this space doesn't, you know, like this or whatever, or there's a negative reinforcement here, I'm going to continue because I feel good about it. I'm going to continue to do it and do it and do it and be me essentially. And that is going to carry you into the spaces that you're actually supposed to be in, because making yourself smaller to fit into a space is is literally the opposite of what you're supposed to be doing. So yes, you might have some negative reinforcement in certain spaces, but we are not going to allow that to continue to be how we receive feedback. The feedback is going to come internally about how do I feel about myself in this moment. And then as you're like, oh, I feel great about my honesty, my integrity, my expression, my authenticity, and you keep on doing that, it is going to strengthen you, your sense of self, and you are going to evolve. You're either going to evolve the space or you're going to evolve the spaces that you're in. This is what we want to do. So when we are centering our experience of ourselves as primary, then it allows us to have a strong sense of self, and that sense of self carries us into the spaces that are also going to be a reflection of that and receptive of who you authentically are. We do not want to go back into making ourselves smaller to make people comfortable, because we're putting ourselves right back into the position again of our unhealed versions. This is not what we are looking for. This is not the purpose of living your life, is to not be a fraction of who you're meant to be in this world. And so that is one really good way to heal the heart chakra, just any of the chakras, honestly, is to do parts work, bring love and expansion to those parts of you, and then focus on, as you're healing, this is not just like this ignorant thing of like, oh yeah, like it's not about the ego. It's about, as you're healing and you're having authentic experiences of yourself, you are checking in with, how am I feeling about the experience that I'm having of myself, not about what that person's experience of me is. And if you are feeling really good about how you showed up and how you're doing and feeling, etc., then that is how you grow. And then you are either going to elevate the space you're in, or you are going to grow into new spaces that are more aligned with the expanded version of you. Number one. Number two, with the throat. Okay, the throat is a practice because there is so much. Um, when you are expressing yourself, you're really letting yourself be seen for who you are. Like, your throat is your truth, it's your authentic voice, it is your beliefs, it is your thoughts, it is your opinions. It's like me, like you're seeing me, this is me type of thing. And because there's again a vulnerability of, is someone going to receive me as who I am, are they going to understand me, am I making sense, all these different things, these come up for me even still, but I just keep on talking. But what you want to do is practice, and so you are going to get the energy moving here by practicing your speech without an audience. This is about you and you. And so one thing I like to do, or what I was doing before, was a lot of voice noting. So I would voice note or voice journal or voice memo with myself, just to kind of clear this space out. I'm just saying things. And I've noticed when my mind is telling me not to say certain things, even when nobody's around. It's just like you get trained, your brain gets programmed to stop you from expressing yourself, basically. And so for me, I'm like talking, 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 and I'm noticing when my mind is kind of saying, that doesn't make sense or whatever. And I'm like, wow, like this is just internalized now. So you just keep on flowing with your expression when there's no external feedback. It's just internal feedback. Um, so doing that to practice this movement, it gets you really connected to your voice, your message, your thoughts, your opinions, your beliefs. It gets you connected to you, because oftentimes, or as we're growing up, we learn to tune into the other because that is our safety, that is our support. We're kids. And so we're not so tuned into ourselves after a certain period of time, because we're like, oh, I learned that this person gives me what I need. And so I have to actually tune into them more than I'm tuning into myself. And now what we actually want to do as adults is we want to not do that. We want to tune into ourselves more than we're tuned into the other. This allows us to build a strong sense of self so that when we come into the world, we're connected to ourselves and our expression and our experience. And this really allows us to be present. And in that present, we can like be with people, still, but their experience is not the primary one. Your experience of you is the primary one. So, what else do I want to say about that? What I do want to say a little bit more is that it actually allows us to go back and forth. When I am able to tune into myself and be with myself, I can tune into you, then I can tune back into me. And I have like this like back and forth experience happening where I'm in my experience and I'm in yours. And, it's a really comfortable thing to move back and forth into. When we are avoiding our experience, when we are not connected to ourselves, when we are more in tune with the other person and what they're thinking and feeling, whatever, then our experience of ourselves is just one of like judgment, basically, criticism. It's not actually an authentic experience of who you are. You're kind of like telling yourself you should have done this and you should have done that and you should be this and you should be that. And it's like, no, no, no. Who am I? And then when you go in and you are being yourself, and you're really comfortable with that because you've done your healing and you've connected to yourself, then your experience of you and how you feel about yourself is the primary focus. I want to say something's coming up for me around other people, in terms of like when does that come in terms of people getting maybe like offended or triggered by like how you're showing up. And for me, there's like a level of triggering others, offending others, etc. And when this happens, if this happens, because it may happen, it happens for me because I do speak my mind. And part of me being myself is also trusting myself. So when something's coming up for me, I like to express it. I like to say, hey, I'm kind of feeling this, or um, even when I'm in conversation, I won't just go up to someone and say, feel this about you. But I will in conversation if I'm talking to someone and I'm like just for example, I was out yesterday and this person was telling me, it's like, yeah, I'm okay, like being by myself. Like I'm not really interested in a relationship. And what was coming up for me was, I don't, that doesn't feel true. Like, because I am an intuitive, I can feel the dissonance between what you're saying and what the energy is presenting. And so my authentic self is to be like, hey, I don't really, that doesn't feel true for me. Like, I think that you're not being honest with yourself because that is authentically what wants to come up for me. And so I either say that and at a risk of this person being like, whatever, you don't know me, etc. Or I suppress that and I just go along with this conversation, even though that's not authentic. Like I might say, "Oh, okay, like that makes sense, being I don't even know, being by yourself is okay too," or something. Um, but that would be me suppressing and not aligning with what actually wants to come up for me. And some people might be like, "Well, it's none of your business, you don't need to tell this person about themselves." And that is fine and dandy, and if I was to say that and that person was to get offended, then I would be like, my bad. That's just who I am. They were not aligned as people. Because I would still want to carry on being myself because I actually want to meet the people that when I say, it doesn't really feel true for me when you're saying that, like my intuition is kind of going off. I want to meet the people that are like, yeah, what is coming up for you? And like have that kind of feedback. So for me to suppress that just to manage this space actually takes me away from meeting the people that I want to meet who are more open to that authentic relationship, which is the relationship that I want to have. So I would, if that person was offended, I would probably apologize and just explain, who I am and what's coming up for me, and fully respect if they are not wanting to go there. but it would actually continue to lead me to the people who do want to go there the more I continue to show up as myself. And if I was to suppress in that moment, then maybe I'm making a new friend right here, but it's a friend that I'm already starting off the relationship of me not being able to be myself. And so that is the example. It's like, yes, someone might be offended by your authenticity, and that's perfectly okay. We can say, my bad, that's just who I am, um, authentically, and I apologize if that offended you. Carry on, you know? And your ability to be with yourself allows that slowing down to happen where it's like, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry," and we can move on, type of thing, versus now I'm telling myself, "Oh, no, I shouldn't have said that," and da, 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 and it's like, "No, because your experience of me is not primary. I respect it, but my experience of me is actually primary." So, like, this is who I'm going to continue to be because authentically, this is who I am. And it might not work in this space, but I want to be in the spaces that it does work in. Does that make sense? This is kind of coming up for me as like a new way of being in a way, because I do think we are really trained um, to honor the experience of other people over the experience of ourselves. And if somebody's offended by something you've said or done, that you're supposed to take responsibility for that and shrink yourself down, as opposed to just recognizing, especially if you weren't being rude or, offensive, just recognizing that some people are going to be uncomfortable with your truth, and that is completely okay. But it doesn't mean that you did or said anything wrong necessarily that needs to be altered. So I kind of want to just have that, awareness of like, you are going to speak your authentic self, and it might trigger people, and that doesn't mean you did anything wrong. How you handle it is going to be um an example of how connected to yourself you are, where you're like, okay, no problem. If that's not for you, that's completely okay. um but it is for me, and I want to continue to be authentic. So I'm going to continue to do that and match with the people who are aligned with that, because it actually excites me to think about, what that looks like, that full alignment of someone who receives your authenticity. Like, it's just, that's beautiful, right? So yeah, so the practicing of the throat, practicing of being with your own voice, with yourself, and not in someone else's experience of you, but in your experience of your own expression in private, whether it's through journaling, whether it's through voice noting, whether it's just through talking out loud, but getting really comfortable with this energy moving through the throat, through the mouth, out the mouth. And this can even be done with breath. If you're not quite sure what you want to say, you just kind of breathe and create movement in that space. You could say, I don't even know what I want to say, but there's things that want to come out. What are the things that want to come out? You're just kind of like verbal diarrheaing and like letting this space clear out. You can even, whatever's been on your mind, bring it out of your mouth. I'm scared because, I'm worried because, I'm nervous because, I'm excited because, like, doing those kind of things clears the mind, opens the throat, opens the heart, allows you to express more fluidly and be more connected to your own experience of yourself than someone else's experience of you. So I think I'll wrap that up here because it's been 30 minutes, and I hope everyone has a beautiful day, focusing on self love and self expression as the primary healers of the heart and the primary healers of the throat. Remembering to meet your needs, meet yourself. That feedback is going to be of curiosity, of love, of interest, not of criticism or judgment or shame. As you are learning, give yourself the space to grow, give yourself the room to grow. It's not going to be perfect. And every time you criticize yourself, if you were like, I shouldn't have said that or whatever, it's like you're not giving yourself the room. But just be like, oh, I'm growing, I'm learning. It's not perfect off the bat, and this is how it's going to be. It allows you the room that you need in order to grow. So I hope that's helpful. I'm sending you so much love, and enjoy your day.